Yo, what's going on, E7 fam? I'm Sue, and in this video, I want to talk about the Spring 2025 World Arena infographic that was just posted earlier today over on Stove. Of course, by the time you're watching this video, it's probably about a day old. I'm recording this in the early evening of the day that it was posted. Long day for me, but it's fine. You're going to be seeing it now and all my thoughts on it. Usually in these videos, I like to talk about my experiences with the previous format and compare the data in the infographic to see if there is a disconnect between what I experienced and what, actually happened in the previous format. This time though, I also want to take a look at some of this data that is presented here by this Korean player, Square Sentence 4560, right? They're not an English player. They are, as you can see here, I am a player of Korean Epic 7. They developed a program that scrubs the epic7.onstove.com/ko/gg. So this is the E7 GG website. They used a program to scrub the entire website and pull the data ahead of this infographic so that way we could get an accurate picture from that website, and we could also compare it to the infographic that's posted here on Stove and see if there are any discrepancies. So I guess to begin, let's talk about my experiences with the format. I didn't really get to play a ton of games this season, largely because I sat the first half out, right? And the second half being something that happened in my real life at the very end. But my time with the season was about maybe 150 to 200 games, which is a lot less than I normally play. The bulk of my time during the season, I spent trying to develop an aggro playstyle around Lone Wolf Payra because I really enjoyed that character. Aggro, by the way, if you're new here, is not a playstyle I normally do. I am primarily known to longtime players here on the channel as a tank down or turn 2 player in PvP, but I used to get a lot of flack for it in comment sections and message boards and things like that because I don't see things from the perspective of aggro or cleave players. So what I've been trying to do is force myself to play playstyles I'm normally really bad at or just don't have the gear to play, so that way I can kind of get a feel for those differing viewpoints, right? Because I think it's important for me to try to understand everyone's playstyle, so that way I could be more well informed, right? I want to understand how faster players engage with World Arena as opposed to someone like me who always kind of concedes turn 1 and just plays a very reactive playstyle like I do in most competitive games. And I've been trying to develop this aggro style now for maybe 6-ish months at this point, right? The previous season, not Spring 2025, but the one before that, I finished Emperor using that aggro style, and this past one using the aggro style with limited games. I finished around like top 1500, right? Just outside of Emperor. Hence why there's no Emperor account review video here on the channel. Didn't get the frame, therefore I figured people wouldn't actually want to watch an account review, especially because I didn't get to play a whole ton of matches here in the season. I don't have a complete picture of everything that was going on. And if you don't know why I didn't try to go for the Emperor frame this season, it's not that like I probably couldn't get it, it's just I just simply chose not to go for it. It's pretty simple. I made a whole community post about it here on the channel, but recently my father got very sick and I had to make a choice, right? I could either go for my 13th Emperor frame on my account, which in the grand scheme of my life doesn't really mean anything. Like 20 years from now, nobody's going to care that I got a 13th Emperor frame, right? Or I could spend time with him, help him, try to get better, make things more comfortable for him, right? I only get one dad. I can get an Emperor frame basically anytime I want. So hopefully you understand why I made the choice that I made. Let's talk about the state of the season and how I remember it. It was largely at the start dominated by Afternoon Soak Flan, Hellion Lua, New Moon Luna, and Harsetti. These are the characters that have just been absolute nightmares to play against for the last 6+ months, right? But the two things that were introduced in this format, as far as I've experienced, that were major curveballs were, number one, Lone Wolf Payra, right? This character is very, very strong with characters like Bloodblade Corinne, Urban Shadow Shu, and a myriad of other dark units. She basically put a lot of characters on her back, made it probably is one of the most prevalent openers from what I could remember, right? I certainly was playing her a lot, and when I wasn't taking her, my opponent was taking her. I took a lot of flack when the character came out for saying that I thought the character was borderline broken or just one of the strongest characters in the game. So I expect when we look at this infographic, she will be one of the most played characters pretty much in the entire game, one of the most first pick characters in the entire game. That's kind of what I expect from my experiences and my predictions. Now, the second thing that was a major curveball was Tori, right? This character came out around Valentine's Day, and it took about a month for people to kind of really settle in on the character, figure out how good the character actually was. Once I feel like Adventure Roz and Blue Crow and Deanne all received buffs, the character really took off because you could slot her into that turn 2 shell with like a Deanne and a Roz or just like a Blue Crow in general. And the character became very difficult to kill with those team compositions, and you could actually play a slow and steady tank down style, and then Tori just had enough firepower to outright kill things in one hit. It forced some people to completely dust off certain characters that they hadn't played in ages, namely things like Ning Ning, Desert Jewel Bazaar, right? Things with barrier inversion kind of needed to be dusted off and removed from waiting rooms just because of how good Tori was. So I would say the two biggest role players from my experience of the past season were Lone Wolf Payra and Tori. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump in and take a look at the infographic, starting with the pre-ban, and it's not really a surprise who the top 3 are. If you had put a gun to my head, I would have definitely told you Harsetti, Newman, Luna, and then after that, either Flan or Paladus in the 3rd slot. Surprisingly, Lone Wolf Payra at 5th. Okay, that one I did not see coming. I knew the character would be very popular, very good. I didn't think that she would be the 5th most banned character. Okay, that's kind of wild. Now, if we compare the other data here, right, that was posted on Reddit, the other infographic, we can see here that Harsetti, from the website data, pulled directly from the website, is 85.38%, and Luna is 68.37%, right? Now, if I come back over here, that's 72.8 and 55% respectively on Smilegate's data. So that's clearly a discrepancy, and I don't know why that is. Either there are some outliers that SG has not posted or talked about or disclosed. They are just purposely obfuscating data for no reason. Or it's possible that this program is not written correctly, right? There's always a chance that maybe duplicate entries or, just however it's coded. I don't actually know. I don't have the program. But there is a discrepancy here, and I would love to know what it actually is. But regardless, it's basically almost the same. It's the same top 5. They have actually, now they look at it, Lone Wolf Payra at 3 as Lone Wolf Payra is at 5 here, right? So again, there's some discrepancy between this. And again, this is all data pulled directly from the publicly accessible website. So very weird that the pre-bans here are different from SG, right? So Harsetti was the most pre-banned, it looks like, consistently throughout the entire thing. You can see here's all the data again in this table for a champion above, right? So champion above is the left. Okay, no, it's contention. Okay, so these are previous seasons. Contention, pursuit. So pursuit was the previous season before this one. Harsetti wasn't out then. The contention season, Harsetti was not out. Harsetti's first season was pursuit. So an increase in pre-ban. So the character has been more pre-banned this season than in previous. Does that hold true for Emperor? Yes. And it gets even higher. Wow, it's almost 80% in Legend here. So Harsetti, this is a big problem, by the way. Harsetti being this high of a pre-ban rate is a huge problem, in my opinion. Because previously, some of the biggest disasters in the game's history, like Blue Lua, right, would only ever reach like a 50 or 55% pre-ban rate. We're at a point where both Luna and Harsetti are just through the roof. Like, they are just way higher in terms of pre-ban rate at all ranks compared to any other oppressive character that we've ever seen. So you could safely say that these might be two of the most oppressive units that they have ever made. All right, so now we move on to first pick. Shocker, Lone Wolf Payra is number 1. I actually don't think I would have picked this as number 1, but honestly, it felt like it because this is what I was picking as my number 1. And when I didn't have first pick, this is what my opponents were. Like, it felt like it, but I didn't want to say it out loud. Like, wow, Lone Wolf Payra is the most picked character in the game. If you had told me, I probably would have still told you it was like Luna or Empyrean Illinow. Wow. So Lone Wolf Payra is 5 times more likely to be picked than Empyrean Illinow as your first pick. Is there a first pick rating here on this data? Nah, not that I could see. So this is all win rates based on first pick. So yeah, I'll link this, by the way, this post, if you guys want to see all this data down in the video's description. But it doesn't look, right? It doesn't look like they do the whole first pick thing. It's a lot more in depth, right? So I don't see how much it is. But yeah, Lone Wolf Para being 5 times more likely to be picked than Imperial Elnab feels crazy. Or 5 times more than Death Dealer Ray. Because Death Dealer Ray was also seeing a lot of first picks in my games. So this is actually surprising because like I'd always seemed like Lone Wolf Para was number 1. And then Illinab and Ray were like 2, 3, right? I would always take Para or Luna if available. All right, so let's see. First picks for Champion, Lone Wolf Para, more than half the time. Still the same in Emperor. Still the same even in Legend. Is actually she the highest pick rate even in Legend? Yeah, so Lone Wolf Para is just the highest at all levels of play. That's crazy. All right, pick rate. Afternoon Soak Flan. That one's not really surprising. That's one of those, if it's open, somebody's taking it. Although I will say, I started to notice a trend in my games that Soak Flan would not be picked in the first 2 to 3 picks, right? Because it was too easy to counter. So usually the person that had the first opportunity in pick 4, like if the first person that had the 4th pick, right, would take Afternoon Soak Flan, leaving somebody only their 4 or 5 to counter it. Because at that point, the character is just OP and you just don't have enough time to react to it. Whereas, like, if you take it early, people were just taking Solitaria, Elagos, right? People developed a lot of technology to fight this character. I think new players that came in with E7 Origin, you're probably still struggling with this character. But Flan, I think, has largely been downloaded by a lot of the veteran players. Like, there's definitely, you know, the character's still very powerful and still very obnoxious, and if you ask me, should the character get nerfed, I still think the character should get nerfed, but people have definitely developed a lot of technology to fight this character, especially with like Guard Captain Crow and stuff coming out now. Like there's a lot of ways to deal with Soak Flan. Watcher Shuri is one that I think is a little bit underexplored, especially by aggressive players, right? So character showing up here as like most overall picked, not terribly surprising here. Early stage, so Bystander Hua Young at the early was pick number 1. This makes sense. This checks. The season started around January, and Bystander Hua Young had just like come out like a couple weeks prior, like 2-3 weeks prior. So this was like everyone's first crack at like trying to play the character, figure out is the character really, really good. And then I think you'll see that she kind of fell off a cliff, 6th here in the mid-season, and by the end, 9th. Now, I don't know if I could find it, but one of the things I found that was very, very interesting, right, is if we look at win rates for characters up here, right, overall pick and win rates. If you look at win rates for characters here on this table, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was reading it before, Bystander Hua Young right here has the highest win rate in the entire game, but only when picked reactively. When you look at the data, Bystander Hua Young has the highest win rate in the game when picked as like a counter pick. Like you don't first pick her, you pick her as a reaction to light units, right? So Bystander Hua Young is actually like criminally underplayed based on the map. Like the data suggests that Bystander Hua Young is like the best character in the game if you want to win as a counter pick. Like if your opponent takes a light unit, your chances of winning with Bystander Hua Young go way up. And I know I remember like reading, it might be either this data set here or his follow-up one, which he posted a couple of days later. Sylvan Sage Vivian is very much the same thing. Like Sylvan Sage Vivian is low-key like highest or second highest win rate character in the game when picked in the appropriate like 4th or 5th pick slot. Right? The characters like both Bystander and Sylvan Sage Vivian are very strong in those like you know later pick slots, like 3 to 5, because they can't be debuffed and they just present an astronomical amount of damage if left unchecked. In fact, there was a player on Reddit that posted that they got Emperor with only like 12 units built. It was like their first time doing it, and they built their entire account based around like Raz, Crow, Ruel, and like nothing really else, and they would always just reactively pick Bystander and Sylvan Sage Vivian. And I think that's a genius playstyle, right? The data, the math shows that it's like a really, really big brain, galaxy brain playstyle. In fact, it's so good that I kind of want to play it going into this season, right? Just presenting pure tanks like your Arunkas, your Illinavs, Krowls, Razes, and then backing up with like Deanna and Ruel, and then the late pick, just taking like Bystander plus Vivian, because you just have 2 hard carries that your opponent just can't do anything about. So I think that, to me, that sounds like a very, very good style. So let's go down here, look at some win rates. Bystander Huayong shows this is surprising. 49.1%. That directly contradicts this highest win rate in the game here from this table. Huh, very interesting. That is a very, very interesting thing. So that's a champion league. Let's look at like higher leagues. Does it get better? So it gets worse in Emperor. But what about in Legend, right? Bystander Huayong is still low. So this is crazy. So what causes that discrepancy, right? So this is like, again, the program scrapes all this, and it's based off of, I believe, the top rated players, and it came up with this. But this data set says amongst top rated players, Bystander's only a 47% win rate. Very, very interesting. I would be very curious as to what caused the discrepancy between this data set and this one. And if you guys can, figure that out, please post it down in the comments below. I would love to know, did I misevaluate something? But this is very, very interesting to me to see that there's two data sets, and Bystander is absolutely terrible in one of the data sets and is hailed as one of the best characters, if not the best character in the game in the other set. Very, very weird to see. All right, so let's look at the match data, right? Average win rate, global, 60% for Legend players, right? This is about checks. If you watch like El Mage, Ace Trainer, any of these players, they always have like in the 60% win rate. Makes a lot of sense. Global put up the most number of people this time around in Legend. That usually checks. That's usually about right. Korea, though, highest win rate. That also checks. Korea has some very strong players. Asia having the lowest win rate actually is very surprising to me. Maybe it shouldn't, right? Maybe it shouldn't, because if we look at the previous season, they have the lowest win rate here, but it always feels like Asia is always like this very strong server. People always used to say Asia is the strongest server, but they have the lowest win rate. But I feel like that's because Asia server usually grinds the most. They have the most amount of games played, and they play a lot of very fast, very aggressive teams that are, very fragile, right? The Asia server players are more likely to play aggro and cleave, whereas some of these other servers are more likely to play standard turn 2. So I feel like that's kind of why that is the way that it is. No surprise here. Average win rate for Emperor player, for everybody I always see, they're always like between 45 and 53%, right? Myself in previous seasons, like my lowest win rates have usually been around 53 or 54%, right? So this makes a lot of sense. Like 53 is, again, put a gun to my head. What do I think the average win rate of Emperor is? It's like almost always 53% every single season. Average match count being 1,100 for Emperor, though. Okay. For the previous season. Wait, it says chase season here, but this is pursuit. Is this a typo? No, I guess it must be just the terminology. So previous season, it looks like people played slightly less this past season than the prior one, at least for Emperor players. More for Legend players. So Legend players played more, Emperors played less. And then for they don't do it for Champion here. Win rates, looks like first pick is slightly advantaged. And then league info, average match count. This checks also from previous ones. Anybody who's in bronze, usually they just don't even finish their placements. They get too discouraged. They kind of leave the format. You can see Masters almost always universally has a higher win rate because most people that are in Masters only play for the skin, and they are much better than Masters. I still believe free to play, you can make it to at least Champion in World Arena. If you apply yourself, I think every single person watching this video, everybody who plays Epic 7, completely free to play. Champion is well within your ability to do so. Might even potentially be Warlord. I feel like only Emperor and Legend is very inaccessible to light or free to play, like light spenders, free to play players, unless you are very dedicated to trying to improve and min-max the hell out of your gear and your compositions. You have to play a very tight package. I talked about that one player that had only like 12 units with Ruel, tanks, and built the whole account around Bystander and Sylvan Sage. You need a game plan like that where it's very hyper condensed that could cover a lot of different problem areas, right? As long as you play 15 or so very well-geared units as a free-to-play player, Emperor is probably possible. Maybe even Legend, right? I know that people tell me a Lifton is free-to-play, or at least like a low spender, and he was literally second best player on the ladder this past season. So, yeah. I've been seeing with a lot of people coming in from E7 Origin that PvP is very pay to win, and I'm not so sure anymore that that's actually true. I think if you have good gear, the right combination of units, and a good strategy and good game sense, then you could go very far in this game. All right, so let's read the overall thoughts paragraph together. Previously, the one from the last season felt like it was written by AI, so I'm hoping that this one is a bit better. So let's read overall thoughts. First, we'd like to express our sincere gratitude to all heirs who made the Spring 2025 season of World Arena truly special. Looking back on the season, one of the most notable changes was the decreased influence of Empyrean Ilnab compared to the previous season. This shift appears to have been largely driven by the arrival of Bystander Huayang early in the season and the enhancement of Urban Shadow Shu through new exclusive equipment. In particular, Urban Shadow Shu emerged as a meta changer in mid-season, thriving in team compositions built around high effect resistance. This is true, that she did arrive as a meta changer because of her EE, but I don't think it was because of high effect resistance compositions. This kind of feels like this is pulled out of nowhere. There was certainly ER rats, but like I feel like only 1 in 3 rats was like ER. Most rats were just damage based. Right, even like the heavy turn 2 players, they still would play damage-based rat. You very rarely see high ER rats, right? So I don't know how much I agree with that statement. Midway through the season, balance adjustments brought classic heroes such as Araz, Crow, and DM back into the meta. At the same time, team composition centered around the newly introduced hero Tori rose to prominence, leading to intense clashes with counter teams designed to stop them. That checks with my experiences from the introduction. The late season World Arena meta was ultimately defined by these battles alongside the emergence of fast-paced compositions featuring Eligos and successor Tei. Yeah, this was Cleave at the time, right? Meanwhile, heroes who could take the first turn like Seafound Apollos and Helio and Lu continued to maintain their strong presence. The newly released hero Loma Peira also gained significant popularity amongst heirs. The season particularly highlighted the strategic value of heroes who could take the first turn, as players explored various builds tailored to different team compositions. This whole like sentence just feels like it's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of nothing, right? It's basically saying like, hey, guys, the 2 openers that were already good, plus this new opener that we released that was the #1 pick rate hero, they were good. Who would have thought? While Newman Luna's pre-ban rate has decreased compared to previous season, Harsetti's pre-ban rate has increased, indicating that many heirs feel significant pressure when facing her. We are currently exploring ways to help alleviate this burden. I have a really, really awesome suggestion for you, Smoggy. It's called nerfs. I know it's not a popular opinion, but like, hey, it'll save you a lot of headache and will give you a lot of design space back to your game and make things a lot easier if you kind of do something about that. Not a popular take. I know people hate when I suggest that, but yeah, as a former designer, nerfs are a godsend. There's been no real competitive game that I can think of that has lasted a very long time that doesn't have the ability to nerf. It's a very important tool for designers to use to kind of curb power creep and regulate the game state to make sure that it's fun and fresh and exciting and all that stuff. Next, we'd like to address Battle Frenzy. A new Battle Frenzy effect was introduced at the start of the preseason, and throughout its duration, we have closely monitored and analyzed its impact on gameplay and overall balance. Based on our findings, the Battle Frenzy effect for the Summer 2025 season will be adjusted as follows. The first change is the removal of the 1500 attack, increased attack and the increase of 500 defense, right? While this effect was originally intended to expand strategic options for attacker heroes by significantly enhancing their stats, it did not have the desired impact during the preseason. As such, we've decided to remove it. Yeah, what ended up happening is it just made everything like a cleave fest, I feel like. It just made everything like one-shot city. They started to make characters like way too good. Like Red Huayang could be built like 290 speed and literally instantly kill things under this Battle Frenzy, so expand strategic option for attack heroes basically made it so the game became like Tekken 8. The offense was like the only thing, right? You would just roll over people with how much offense you got off of the frenzy here. Next, the effect that increases burn, bleed, and bomb damage suffered by heroes by 50% has been revised to increases burn and bleed damage by 50%. Yep, that makes sense because bomb was already by far the best of these debuffs, so like why did you buff it? It didn't make any sense. After analyzing the preseason data, we found the effect to be meaningful and decided to keep it in a revised form. However, continuing to include bomb effects at the same damage increase carried a higher risk of imbalance, so we've opted to remove bomb from the effect. We'll keep working to provide new and exciting battle experiences in seasons to come. So basically, I guess Researcher Carrot, Inferno Kawazu, maybe Baiken could be benefactors from this change, but like otherwise, I don't think it does much. I guess they just left it because they realized, hey, it doesn't really do anything, and we need something here for Battle Frenzy because this was supposed to be the big shakeup, and they largely repealed like 95 to 99% of it. So I guess, in addition to the updated Battle Frenzy effect, the summer 25 season will bring a variety of new changes. We're excited to introduce the Hero Support System, a new feature exclusive to World Arena. With this season, about 10 heroes will be provided for use during the season. We hope this will ease the burden for new heirs and even veteran players who may not have all the necessary heroes fully built or available for competitive play. I'm super stoked for this, by the way, this feature. And when it comes out, I'll be definitely talking about it, heavily scrutinizing it too, because like there's a couple of things that they could do that would make this system a home run, but there's also a couple of things that they could do that make it a disaster, right? Like if you have to lock in all 10 heroes right away, then it makes it so that players will go most of the season without actually being able to play RTA, because it would actually be detrimental to you to lock in your 10 at the start of the season, because the metagame at the end of the season is drastically different because of balance adjustments, new hero releases, and necessary characters to counter key things that pop up in the format. So if they don't do this right, it will make it so that people could essentially dip their toes into World Arena and then be locked out of it because they didn't like show some restraint. And I don't think you should be able to punish players for not wanting to explore a game mode, mess around with it, have fun. I think it should be like a Grace of Growth system where people are allowed to change their 10 heroes like every 72 hours or something, right? I think that would be the best way to do it. I think that would be very, very good. So we'll see how this pans out. Very excited for that. Finally, the Ultimate World Arena Showdown, E7 WC2025 kicks off this summer season with its preliminaries. To mark the occasion, the World Arena battlefield will feature a visually striking new look. Ranked battles will take place at a brand new E7 WC exclusive battlefield with a dynamic stage that changes throughout the match to reflect the tension and intensity of high-stakes competition. Get ready to experience the summer season of World Arena like never before, and stay tuned for all the action coming in E7 WC 2025. Thank you. I'm actually excited for E7 WC 2025. If you guys are here on the channel and you did not watch my stream from this past weekend where we did lunatic battles with viewers, we did lunatic lobbies, that's the format for E7 WC this year, and it's super awesome. It created some crazy moments with characters that we have not seen in a very long time. So I think if Lunatic Draft is the format for World Arena, we're going to see some absolute chefs, some absolute cinema. It's going to be so, so good. So I'm very, very excited for this. And, you know, it's good that they're kind of like letting it be known that, hey, the preliminaries are coming. Preliminaries usually start probably, I want to say, like last week of May until like the second or third week of June. So if you're interested in trying out for the E7 WC, there will be a ladder that will be available in the game. Give it a try just to play it, just to see how you do. Right? It doesn't cost you anything. Just have fun with the format. I think it's just, again, Lunatic Draft is just a super, super fun format, and I really like it. And I know this weekend there will be some exhibition battles with KHM, Hazama Ray, and the like, and we will definitely try to do a watch party for that if we can. Kind of watch those matches again to kind of highlight how awesome of a feature Lunatic Draft is. Like, I absolutely love it. This might be the most exciting and best E7 WC yet, and yeah, it's only a few months away, like 2 months away, so I'm stoked. Hopefully you guys are as well. And that's pretty much all I have to talk about here today in the infographic. Let me know what your thoughts were on the spring 2025 season down below. Do you know what the discrepancy is? The reason why these win rates don't match the ones here in the infographic? Would love to know that as well. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.